Hi, and welcome to Terry Talks Movies, and welcome to all the movies that I watched in October 2025. There are a few of them. There are some of them I talked about on the channel. There are some of them I did not talk about on the channel. So I'm just going to open up and share my screen, and we're going to look through my letterbox and just see what I saw and whether they're worth talking about. So we'll get started in a moment when I remember how to do this. Okay, I just remembered, and here we are with the first thing I saw, which was the Quatermass Xperiment, the one with Brian Dunleavy. I've talked about it a lot on the channel, from 1955, directed by Val Guest, with the wonderfully bad actress Margia Dean in it. The movie's good, but a couple of the casting choices are not. And so I watched that, and I've talked about it on the channel on Science Fiction Saturday. Then I watched Quatermass 2 Electric Boogaloo, because of course I did. Again, directed by Val Guest, made 2 years after the making of Quatermass Xperiment. A little bit better, got some interesting character actors in it, like Percy Herbert in there, and of course there's Michael Ripper. Nice special effects for the time. It works well. I've done all the talking I need to do about that particular movie. Then I went to Cinemaniacs at the Astor Theatre and saw George A. Romero's Martin. Very unusual vampire movie from 1977, so it is early in Romero's career, but it really worked. It's not pleasant at times. It's got that grindhouse edginess to it, but the audience liked it. The talk about it was good before the movie started, and I did very well because I won two. I won a t-shirt, which I gave to my niece because it's much too small for me. And I also won 2 free tickets to the next Cinemaniacs session, which is on the 15th of November. So a score there. But yeah, if you haven't seen Martin, or you haven't seen it in a while, really unusual vampire movie. It takes a totally different turn on it, and Romero is great. It's set in Pittsburgh, very kind of working class and grimy. Really interesting movie, and it's on my list of something to get a physical copy of because I think it's worth having. Then I watched The Suicide Squad because I got an incredibly cheap 4K of it. I already had a Blu-ray, but I got the 4K for I think $5 or so at CEX. It might be $5, $10, $12, something like that. So I got that. It's the James Gunn one. It's not the David Ayers one. And it was a good rewatch. The special effects are great. Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn's great. It's got the start of John Cena playing Peacemaker, and there have been now 2 seasons of the Peacemaker TV series. Idris Elba's in there. Sylvester Stallone doing the voice of King Shark. Flula Borg's in there. Jai Courtney, Daniela Melchior. Just a great movie. It's basically the calling card James Gunn had for running DC live action. There's a little bit to talk about. They're selling off Warner Brothers Studios, and that may affect DC. It may affect James Gunn's preeminence as the guy running DC. But this is that first high point where DC, for the first time in a long time, made a movie that was comparable with a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. Then we got Play Dirty, which I watched because it's a Shane Black movie. It's got Marky Mark in it, and it's based on the Parker novels, the same novels and the same character that Lee Marvin played in Point Blank. And it's got Marky Mark in it. It's got Lakeith Stanfield, Rosa Salazar, Keegan Michael Key. It's okay except for Marky Mark. Mark Wahlberg has the charisma of a piece of toilet paper stuck to your shoe. And I got disappointed, not because it's a Shane Black movie that fails. It's because the movie was probably made on the strength of Marky Mark, and his character is within that horrible, narrow margin of the kinds of roles Mark Wahlberg can play. The script and the plot are great, and the action sequences are crisp, but it just doesn't land. It was made for streaming, and unfortunately, it's a disappointing Shane Black movie, and I hate the fact that there is a disappointing Shane Black movie. Then I saw Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. Peter Pan is now in the public domain. And so there is a Peter Pan extreme horror movie made by the same people who did the Winnie the Pooh ones and the Bambi one, which I'm getting a copy of soon. But the Peter Pan one, directed by Scott Chambers, is kind of interesting. It takes a dark twist on the character, and it does a pretty good job. If you set your expectations to low-budget horror film, you may well get some interesting results from watching this. I think that each time these guys do these movies, the same mob are doing all of them, they're getting more adept at it. They're getting better at doing it. They're getting better at giving us the characters, the special effects and the budgets and the directing, and all of the crew and camera work and actors improve with each movie. And I find that fascinating. It's like watching somebody learn how to do something, and increasingly they get to do it a lot better. But that one didn't disappoint. I expected it to be kind of meh, but it did not disappoint. Next up, we got Chopping Mall, Jim Wynorski's Chopping Mall, which I love. It's got so many good actors in it. Kelly Maroney's in there. Barbara Crampton's in there. You get Mary Warrenoff and Paul Bartel doing a cameo. Garrett Graham's in there. About a whole bunch of high-tech robots that are doing security in a shopping mall at night. There are bunches of young people trapped in there, and the robots go mad when their control area is hit by lightning. Terrific fun. The special effects are 1980s VHS era horror movie good, and I like it. Shopping Mall is just a lot of fun. And if you're from that era where you did rent this kind of thing on video, you're going to get the nostalgia buzz, but you can also appreciate it, not just totally with that drug of nostalgia, but going, hey, this is an interesting and fun horror movie. And letting it stand on its own without the nostalgia factor, you still get a good run on it. So what's that? Then I watched The Land That Time Forgot, which is in the Tales of Adventure collection that Imprint have put out. And I hadn't watched this for a long time. Directed by Kevin Connor, like all of the ones in that particular box set are. During World War I, a German U-boat sinks a British passenger ship and takes the survivors on board. After getting lost in the fog, the submarine surfaces near the unmanned island of Caprona, a lost world where they find dinosaurs and Neanderthals. It's got Doug McClure, John McGenery, with his voice dubbed by Anton Diffring, Susan Penhaligon, Anthony Ainley. It's just such a fun 1970s English adaptation of an Edgar Rice Burroughs story. And I had a lot of fun with it. Then I decided to go for some Eurospy because of course I did. And I watched Alberto De Martino's Special Mission Lady Chaplin with Daniela Bianchi, Ken Clark. It's basically a Eurospy alternative James Bond movie. It's got a banger of a theme song. It's got locations all over Europe. Ken Clark plays the secret agent involved. Daniela Bianchi is a fashion designer come spy called Lady Chaplin. I just love this one. It's got a good style to it. It's a nice B-grade Eurospy movie. And I really like it. It's some of it's filmed in New York City on the waterfront near where the heliport was in New York City in the 1960s. So you get all of that New York City landscape as well. And you get some really good, well-chosen locations in Europe, mostly in Spain. But Special Mission Lady Chaplin, I really like. It's one of my favorite old-school Eurospy movies. Then I watched a horrible thing with Josh Hutcherson and Morgan Freeman called 57 Seconds. When a tech blogger lands an interview with a tech guru and stops an attack on him, he finds a mysterious ring that takes him back 57 seconds into the past. This one's not good. The script's not good. The acting's not good. The bad guy is played by Greg Romain. Morgan Freeman is just Morgan Freeman in it. Josh Hutcherson does what he can with it, but it's not a good movie. And I didn't enjoy one bit of it, and I felt bad about watching it. But then I watched Master of the World, which is an adaptation of a Jules Verne novel. This one is in one of the other Tales of Adventure box sets that came out last month. Like the film. I think it's the first movie where Charles Bronson plays a protagonist. Vincent Price plays Rober, who has a flying airship, and he's trying to save the world from war by basically destroying every warship and war instrumentality in the world. It's kind of like Captain Nemo in the sky. Low budget, but I kind of like it. It's got Henry Hull in it as well, the guy who played the Werewolf of London. David Frankham, who's still alive. And Vito Scotti's in there as well, playing the chef. I saw this one when I was a kid on TV, and I loved it. And it's a bit of a different role for Vincent Price too, because his Rober is kind of right as well as being entirely wrong. And so there's an ambiguity about this bombastic, dictatorial sky captain character that Vincent Price plays, which I like. I like the ambiguity of Rober in this movie, and Price basically essays the character really interestingly. Then I watched Warlords of the Deep, which was last movie directed by Jacques Tourneur from 1965. It's also known as City Under the Sea. And it has Tab Hunter, David Tomlinson, Vincent Price, Susan Hart, John LeMessurier in an interesting role. And you can see there it says, a chance discovery leads an American mining engineer, Ben Harris, and his acquaintance Harold to discover a lost city under the sea while searching for their kidnapped friend Jill. Held captain in the underwater city by the tyrannical captain, played by Vincent Price, and his crew of former smugglers, the three plot to escape. And the twist there is that all the people living in the underwater city have lived extremely long lives. They've been alive for over 100 years. And if they go to the surface, they're going to die. And so they're trying to find a weird way to survive. Meanwhile, off the coast of southern England, there's a volcano under the ocean, which is going to blow up and destroy the city. It's all that kind of thing. It's over the top. It's silly. David Tomlinson has a comic role as a man with a pet chicken. But it's kind of the mid-1960s children's matinee fare, and I like it for that. Then I watched a new movie directed by Ethan Coen, and it's Honey Don't with Margaret Qualley's in it, Aubrey Plaza, Chris Evans in a very un-Chris Evans role. Honey O'Donoghue, a small-town private investigator, delves into a series of strange deaths tied to a mysterious church. This one I liked, apart from the fact that there's a very sizzling scene between Aubrey Plaza and Margaret Qualley, which surprised me. I think it's a kind of low-key, tongue-in-cheek private eye movie. And Chris Evans is a lot of fun. Charlie Day's in there as well as a clueless cop. Patrick Swayze's brother Don gets a little bit of a role in there as well. I like this one. It's kind of a modern-day lesbian grindhouse movie, which I really enjoyed, and I had a great time with it. A lot of people didn't care for it because the plot is a little bit loosey-goosey, but I enjoyed it. Not the least of which because it's got Aubrey Plaza in it. Let me just flip the page here. No, hang on, before I do, I missed one. I missed this one. I tend to do that. Hammer Heroes, Legends and Monsters, a 2024 documentary directed by Benjamin Field. It's a look at Hammer's progression from the back office of London's Regent Street to an iconic status within the horror film genre. It's got a lot of interviews with a lot of people, but the direction on the interviews is woefully repetitive. It's great. There's a lot of good information there. The narration is done by Charles Dance. An interview with Tim Burton, John Carpenter, Joe Dante, John Landis. Peter Cushing's in some of the old scenes. Jonathan Rigby's in there as well. It's an interesting documentary, but the repetitive nature of how they're framing the talking head interviews is kind of annoying. Okay, let's go forward onto that next page again. And I rewatched, I watched Superman the movie from 1978. I've talked about this on the channel, about how disappointed I was with it and how there's a whole bunch of cringe in it. I'm not going to revisit that argument that I made about the cringe in this movie. I didn't watch any of the sequels to this, the other three movies in that series, because the first one surprised me in how much it disappointed me. So I'm going to turn the page quickly on that one. Then I watched a mockumentary that The Onion did, basically pastiching true crime documentaries. And it's called Jeffrey Epstein, Bad Pedophile. Mockumentary from the team at America's finest news source, The Onion, which chronicles the life and crimes of Jeffrey Epstein and associates such as Donald Trump who promised to release the Epstein files until he was told he was in them. It's funny because it is a good pastiche of true crime documentaries. And it's scathing about, of course, Jeffrey Epstein and about Trump and a bunch of other people. But it's written with its tongue very much in its cheek. It's not long. I think it runs like 40 minutes. But I liked it because it is just so honestly scathing and ruthlessly satirical about the subject du jour. Then I watched J-Man Forever, which is a Five-Sign Theatre comedy that was done in 1979, where they use clips from all of the old movie serials, the superhero ones, to put together a narrative about the lightning bug who has a multi-pronged scheme to enslave the earth. First rock and roll, then marijuana. Finally, the J-Men build a bomb to blow up the moon with, but the bug beats them to it by self-destructing the moon by playing his rock and roll music too loud. It's kind of funny. It's a little bit of fun. They cut in some modern footage along with the old stuff. But if you want a tasting sample of all of the old superhero movie serials from the 1940s, you can't go wrong with J-Man Forever. It's on Tubi, and if you're in the right headspace or you're self-medicating mildly, you might have a good time with that one. Then I watched X the Unknown. I've talked about that on the channel, with Gene Jagger playing a kind of alternative version of Quatermass. So basically it's radioactive ooze coming out of the earth and burning things up and absorbing anything radioactive with which it comes in contact. Nice, honest little, not quite Quatermass movie that Hammer did. It was going to be directed by Joseph Losey, but Gene Jagger wouldn't work with him, so it wasn't. Then we watched The Gorge, which is a modern film and quite interesting, directed by Scott Derrickson. Science fiction movie, really nice romance between the two protagonists played by Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy. Sigourney Weaver's the bureaucratic baddie in this one. Good special effects, a lot of fun. I enjoyed this movie more than I expected it to. I've got very low expectations when it comes to streaming service movies, but this one hit for me. And I've had a couple of people comment that they watched it on my recommendation, and they enjoyed it too, which is always a thing of quality. Then I got out my 3-movie box set of the 3 Hong Kong erotic ghost story movies from the 1990s. This one, erotic ghost story, after 1,000 years, 3 vixens transform into humans. They seduce a poor young scholar who soon finds himself in a horrifying situation. That is the first part of the story, but there's more complications there. It's about Chinese magic and supernatural stuff. It's also got a lot of nudity in it. And it's a Category 3 movie in Hong Kong. Amy Yip plays the main woman in that. It's great fun. If you can get your head into the space of, yes, I'm watching a wuxia movie, yes, I'm watching a Chinese supernatural movie, and yes, I can see the underside of that lady, you can have a good time with that one. Then I watched, of course, Erotic Ghost Story 2, and it continues the story of Wu Tong, a sex demon, who returns in another body where he falls in love with a mortal girl, but heaven thinks otherwise, with the girl being burnt at the stake, and her soul being incarnated into a new person. Wu Tong then waits, and when that person grows up, he falls in love with her all over again. This is the weakest of the 3. It's still interesting, but it's the weakest of the 3 erotic ghost story movies. And Imprint put this out on the Imprint Asia box set. And Erotic Ghost Story 3, a wanderer meets a monk with magical powers and becomes entranced by a mural of exquisite dancing women. He enters the painting unaware of the conspiracy behind it and must rescue the women who are trapped there. It's basically an alternate universe thing where they go through a painting into hell and must fight demons with the aid of some very sexy lady demons. This one was fun. The special effects are good. The characters are great. All of the erotic ghost story movies are entertaining, but the first and the third ones are really the best of them. Then I watched Quatermass in the Pit, and I talked about it on Science Fiction Saturday. Directed by Roy Ward Baker, equal best Hammer movie ever made. we all know about. It's a Quatermass movie. Andrew Keir, James Donald, Barbara Shelley, Julian Glover, Brian Marshall. I've talked about this endlessly. Then I watched a documentary called Naughty, a look at sex and pornography down through the ages, from liberal ancient Greeks to hypocritical Victorians to modern time. It's one of those English slap and tickle documentaries that were made in the early 70s when censorship loosened up. It's got a lot of bums and boobs, and it's kind of fun. It's a little self-conscious, but it's not particularly a bad documentary, and I enjoyed it while I was watching it. Then I watched Cotton Comes to Harlem, which is an adaptation of Chester Himes' Gravedigger and Coffin Ed novels, directed by Ossie Davis. It was one of the first blaxploitation movies, made overwhelmingly by a black cast and crew. Basically, it's Harlem's African-American population is being ripped off by the Reverend Deke O'Malley, played by Calvin Lockhart, who dishonestly claims that small donations will secure a parcel of land in Africa and buy a boat to take people back to Africa. Coffin Ed and Gravedigger, played by Raymond St. Jakes and Godfrey Cambridge, are the cops on the beat, and they find out that the cash that Deke has stolen is hidden in a bale of cotton somewhere in Harlem. And Harlem ain't known for its cotton. It's very funny. It's very well made. It's got Judy Pace in it as well. And there's a lot of very beautiful women with very little on. But the story is the important thing, and the crime part of it's the important thing. And Cotton Comes to Harlem works. Then I watched Come Back Charleston Blue, the sequel, which was made a couple of years later. Not as good. Yeah, I couldn't find a great copy of this. I could only find a VHS rip of it. It's a very inferior sequel, which is a pity because I think Coffin Ed and Gravedigger are great characters. I've read the novels, and the novels are beautifully hardcore and were set mostly in the 40s and 50s. And Chester Himes was just a great writer, evoking a time and a place, and that time and place being Harlem from a black point of view. Pity it wasn't better. Then I picked up at the op shop for $1 Jonah Hex, the DC movie based on a comic book about a gunslinger with supernatural powers, appointed by President Ulysses S. Grant to track down Quentin Turnbull, a former Confederate officer, played by John Malkovich. Jonah Hex is played by Josh Brolin. It's got Megan Fox in it in one of her worst roles. Supernatural Western, kind of amusing but not great. I mean, I think I paid about the right price for it by getting it for $1 at an op shop in Newport. But we very quickly forget unsuccessful comic book adaptation movies of the past. And I thought I'd revisit that one. Then I got Cecil B Demented from Umbrella Entertainment and watched it. John Waters' second most recent movie, starring Melanie Griffith, Stephen Dorff, Alicia Witt, Maggie Gyllenhaal's in there as well, Michael Shannon, young lunatic director and his devoted cult of cinema terrorists kidnap a Hollywood movie goddess and force her to star in their radical underground movie. I love this one. I don't think it's top tier John Waters, but it's great and entertaining John Waters. Then I watched It Came From Beneath the Sea. There was a copy of it on YouTube, and I watched it. The Ray Harryhausen special effects don't come in until the last third of the movie, with the giant octopus wrecking San Francisco, and they're pretty good for 1955. It stars Kenneth Tobey, Faith Domergue, Donald Curtis, with a weird love triangle at the center of the movie, which takes up a little more of the time of the movie than is really interesting. It's a classic, and I watched it, and it was kind of okay. Then it's weird because we have a young family member who at the moment is dying of cancer. And I was asked to be a pallbearer. She hasn't died yet, but when she does, I'm going to be one of the pallbearers. And that, has an impact. And so I watched The Loved One, which is about the funeral industry in America in the 1960s. And it acted kind of as a balm, a black comedy about the funeral industry, somehow eased the discomfort that I had. I don't know why or how. I don't even know why I watched it, but I did. And it worked for me. It's a really dark comedy. Robert Morse is in there, Jonathan Winters, Anjanette Comer, Rod Steiger, John Gielgud's in there, James Coburn, Milton Berle. It's just a very, very dark comedy about an English poet called Dennis Barlow, played by Robert Morse, who ends up in Los Angeles. His uncle works in the film industry, and he gets involved in Whispering Glades funeral parlor and falls in love with a woman called Amy, who works there, played by Anjanette Comer. And the movie goes in weird directions. Directed by Tony Richardson in the 1960s. Very, very dark. It was based on an Evelyn Waugh novel. There are grotesque characters. Mr. Joy Boy, played by Rod Steiger, is one of the true grotesques of 1960s cinema. And I enjoyed that, even though it came at a weird time. Then I watched a new movie, which is kind of like a Temu version of The Substance. It's been delayed and released for a while, directed by Max Minghella, who has stated he doesn't enjoy horror movies. So he makes this body horror movie about an actress, Samantha Lake, played by Elizabeth Moss, who finds a way to retain her youth and her beauty with a technique called Shell that beauty mogul Zoe Shannon, played by Kate Hudson, has developed. But there are side effects. This is a piss-weak iteration of the same story that The Substance is. It just doesn't work. Weird thing, it's supposed to be about someone who gets to be beautiful and younger again. Elizabeth Moss was 5 and 6 months pregnant when this movie was made. And they kind of worked around the fact that she looked like a pregnant woman. And it just doesn't work. It's horrible. It's out in cinemas here in Australia at the moment for no good reason. But it doesn't hit anywhere near as powerfully as The Substance, Coralie Farge's movie. It's second-rate and ordinary. It's made by a man who does not like horror, and yet it's about body horror. And the big body horror revelation in it is off. It's like, oh yeah, okay. It's like that. Don't bother with this one. I rarely say don't bother with movies, but don't bother with this one. Lastly, I watched The Damned, also known as These Are the Damned. I talk about it in my video immediately before this. This is my argument for the best movie Hammer ever made, directed by Joseph Losey, starring McDonald Carey, Shirley Ann Field, Vivica Lynn-Force, Alexander Knox, Oliver Reed in a really good early role. I've talked about this. You can read that on the screen. I'm not going to go into it again, but it was just a really interesting and evocative rewatch. So that's what I've watched in October. There is some spooky stuff in there, but I didn't go totally didactic about it. I didn't say I'm only going to watch horror movies for the month, but I did watch a number of horror movies for the month. And that's okay. So let me know what you think of these films, whether you enjoy them, whether you want to see them. Give me a few comments on there. You can also hit the subscribe button. I would appreciate it if you did, if you haven't already. Give it a thumbs up. Hit the notification bell. You can support the channel by becoming a channel member on YouTube, by donating through YouTube, or by becoming a patron at patreon.com/TerryTalksMovies. Next up, we've got the Wednesday video, and I may have a few surprises for that. And I'm looking forward to it. So until then, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies. Definitely check out The Damned, and I'll catch you next time.